got AF Post here. They're saying President Trump has contracted Silicon Valley tech firm Palantir to create a master database on every American citizen. The first thing that comes to my mind is just Patriot Act, right? But like what the precedent, you know, at the bare minimum, the Patriot Act had a precedence, right? It was the war on terror, 9/11.
Yeah.
What is this? What's the precedent for this? They're just like, fuck it. Let's just roll with it. Let's just compile a database and surveil on people.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Beautiful, unethical,
Who is this? Like,
dangerous. You've turned every cell phone in Gotham into
this
a
is like Donald
microphone.
Trump and
And a high-frequency generator receiver.
Batman is like
You
Peter
took
Thiel.
my sonar
Or Alex Carr
concept
coming up to him.
and applied it to every phone in the city. With half the city feeding you sonar, you can image all of Gotham. This is wrong.
So we got anti-pattern here, who kind of breaks it down for us a little bit in the comments. He says, for those of you who are claiming this is BS or otherwise misunderstood, it's not. Let me introduce you to two concepts from the cleared space: aggregation and compilation. Both deal with, in essence, the combination of two or more pieces of unclassified information that, when combined, yield classified information, simply by being combined. For example, suppose you have two separate unclassified facts: the location of a military base, which is publicly known, or the schedule of supply deliveries, which is also publicly known. Individually, these are not classified. However, if you combine them, you might reveal operational patterns or vulnerabilities, making the combination classified. The government and private industry have thousands of databases of information on private citizens that, each on their own, may not present a clear and present danger to lives or livelihood. However, when the information from two or more of them is combined, patterns emerge that can be used to target very specific behaviors, e.g., your bank's records of your purchases. Combined with your web browsing history, your location data, your social network of the people you associate with online or in person, your voting records, etc., this can paint a damning picture of you. If one wanted to target specific individuals or uncover groups based on certain political beliefs and possible activities deemed a threat to the government. This was always the danger of databasing of personal information, that one day computers would be fast enough and powerful enough that the information could be combined in ways that you would not want done. He's saying that, you know, they had all this data of these individual things that you might have done, but it's not until AI is going to take them and combine them all into one thing that they're going to be able to apply to the individual and get this kind of broad picture. I just don't, this is just such, I don't, is this what Trump kind of sold himself to? He sold himself to these tech people in order to get the presidency so they could do all this shit?
And this is the Palantir company where they're going to build security databases that have all of our information in them, right? That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying, yeah.
And it's going to have like everything. It'll like look at you and know like if you're good at tennis, or if you've ever, you know, if you have $60 in your pocket, or if you're, you know, it can tell if your kids are, you know, if your kid's gonna have a limp or whatever, if he'll be in the Christmas play.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It can tell.
Yeah, because that's also another aspect of it, is that this will be predictive, is what he's saying, right? Whereas I don't know if you just looked at your historical, I mean, you can make an assessment, but this is gonna apply predictive kind of with the algorithm.
Theo Vaughn is saying he's afraid it will be predictive, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but I have a problem if the government has my Amazon data, whether or not they're creating an AI profile of me. And the only difference is that it makes it easier for them before, like, if they have suspicions about me, which they probably do, they probably already have a profile on me. They've probably gone to these companies, gotten my data, right? They already have a profile on me, right? What this would change, I think, is that they would be able to have a profile on everyone.
Yeah.
And then the ones they weren't looking at, they then could go, oh, this one's got a flag. Maybe I should look at this guy, right? But I don't see how they could do that unless because I can understand how they would have my Amazon data. I just don't understand how they have everyone's Amazon data. Like, because like at some point the government just slid that under then, I guess, because as far as I was aware, the government did not have access to credit card purchasing history, Amazon data, you know, cell phone tracking data, that they, whenever they wanted that, which they could get, which is a big deal, but that they had to have some sort of a target on someone. They couldn't do it to create a database like this. So I just don't understand what's happening. Yeah.
All of that. And then And that feels real scary, man. Like to,
I get it.
To a regular guy on the
understand,
street,
yeah.
that feels like we're gonna give our society like we're gonna become these, like they're gonna have know everything about us. It makes you feel like you won't be a person anymore.
I hear you.
Does that make sense to you?
No, it definitely makes sense to me. I mean, let me try to explain. So to be clear, I'm not an expert on this particular deal. I actually just read about it earlier today or maybe yesterday. But the president did an executive order, I don't know, a couple months ago. And the basic idea is you've got all this different information, but it's not accessible in one place. So like, let me give you an example where this might be useful.
Okay.
Let's say you catch an illegal immigrant, okay? And that person's using a
that the
social
pretext?
security number, but the Department of Homeland Security that arrests the person can't actually figure out what social security number that illegal immigrant is, what name it's attached to, okay? Or, you know, let's say you're like investigating some terrorist and the FBI arrests the person, but, you know, there are information about like where the person lived a couple years ago that you'd like to have. So you'd maybe like to go, you know, talk to their friends or associates or whatever.
Yeah.
My understanding is that it does sound odd, but that what they're trying to do is take all the information that the Department of Homeland Security has, that the FBI has, and just make it so that it's actually not in some hyper inefficient system. It's all sort of accessible. And here's the thing. Modern technology is just crazy and weird, and it affects our privacy. And I think we don't have to think that's a good thing. It is like a reality of the world that we live in.
Right.
And
Sometimes I get a little romantic about things.
well, I mean, look,
And I think it's going to
Okay.
go back in time.
I mean,
That's
look,
true too. I think about that too. I think, well, is this just not the necessary, you know, progression of technology? Was this always going to be the case? Like, could we ever have stopped something like this from happening?
Yeah, because the government. If we just said the government is not supposed to be surveilling everyone, like, it's one thing to say, well, there's like, and he mentions two cases in which there's a criminal being investigated, right? An illegal alien that's been arrested. They're checking his ID. The other one was a terrorist under investigation, right? Now, in those cases, the government already has the access, right? But and it is possible that they have the access, but they got to go to Amazon, and then they got to sell it to Verizon, and then they got to go to the Department of, you know, and maybe this would help them speed that up. But that's a different thing qualitatively than if they have a database that's just ambient, that's just passively collecting this data on everyone. And then, because then that allows them then to go and find their targets through their database rather than collecting a database on their targets.
everybody, I kind of agree with you. I think people are sort of going to rebel against technology a little bit. In some ways they already are, but I mean, look, dude, if I, this has happened to me so many times where I'm talking to my wife, like, oh, what are we gonna make for dinner for the kids tonight? Oh, let's just like do DoorDash or Grubhub. And then you go on like X or you go on, you know, Facebook or Instagram, and there's like an advertisement for a DoorDash coupon. And it's like, well, I was just talking about this 10 minutes ago. So we know that big technology spies on us and harvests our data. I honestly worry more about that than about like connecting the DHS system to the FBI system.
So that's all that this Palantir deal is part. Like a lot of that, it's just connecting information.
So I'm hardly an expert, but that is
Okay.
my understanding is that it's just taking, okay, DHS has information, FBI has information, Secretary of the Treasury has information, and making it possible for that information to be searched by whoever is looking for it.
Oh,
that's my understanding.
Yeah.
But again, like, I hear that story, and my reaction is the same, which is, oh, I don't like the government having my information. The reality is the government already has my information, and more importantly, some of these private technology companies have way more information on me than the government does.
Oh yeah.
I mean, anywhere you shop.
But that's good. I like to hear that.
What?
Private companies have way more information on you than the government does. That's what I want to hear, because that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Amazon should know my buying history. The government shouldn't.
More information on you. I mean, let me tell you, like,
yeah, dude.
crazy.
Blockbuster 2 days ago, Blockbuster was like, "Happy birthday." They were wrong.
So I gotta.
It's like you're out of business. There's a
yeah. When was the last time you were at a Blockbuster?
What did he just say
guy
there?
somewhere, probably in another country, Nepal.
You and
is sitting
FDR
somewhere.
You and FDR took your Celsius and went down to Blockbuster to get some VHS rentals. Okay.
A little bit of boogie, boogie nights for the fellas.
That was FDR's favorite movie, so that makes sense. So, all right, what were we talking about?
I don't know,
Technology.
dude.
Okay, so I was getting a brief. So
'Cause that's what people
when
are
I first
scared
became, no, they are, and I get it. And look, like all I'll tell you is we try to be as.
Oh,
my
yeah, I did
God.
go to the last Blockbuster. I forgot
Okay.
about that. Shout out
How
Bend,
old was
Oregon.
that? Is that 14 years ago?
That no, that's freaking 2 years ago,
Oh, I
dude.
didn't realize Blockbuster
My
was
ex lived
still
out
a
there.
thing
Got
2
stuck in the
years ago.
snow out there.
Yeah. I got a brief from my national security guy. I got to make sure I can. It's not classified information. Okay, no, it's not classified information. Okay, basically, long story short, one of the guys who works in the national security team of the Trump administration gave me this brief about how, okay, when
Betsy Baggins in chat says, but private companies will work with the government. That is what's happening to the U.S. That's true. That's a valid point. I mean, I don't know. Like, because again, I say, like, isn't this going to be the necessary move that happens? If you're buying online, the company's going to know what you're buying and what you might like predictively, you know?
Right, and we know that the government can act. That's what they did on J6, right? They went to the cell phone company and tracked. At least that's what we're told. Then they said, all the cell phones in this area, we want their data, right? So we know which cell phones were here and which ones were inside the Capitol building, and that I still think that they shouldn't. You know, that's way back 2001 privacy violation, right? When they're going and being able to say, we think these people are opening a terrorist
2021.
investigation on. No, I'm saying Patriot Act.
Oh,
I'm
I see
saying,
what you're saying. Okay.
From the point where they say this person's a terrorist, we're going to the company and we're saying you have to give us this data. That is a privacy violation, but something I remember as a little kid my dad arguing about, right? But it's like, as far as we know, nothing's changed there. The government can get this data, but first they have to have their targets.
Yeah.
The idea that they can just mass surveil is different.
Yeah.
I want to say two real quick things. One is JD Vance, did you notice how he looked up? I think he has an earpiece in. I think someone's giving him cues. There were 2 times. One time he stalled earlier, and then this time he said, I need to know if that's classified information. He looks up, over, and then he goes, no, it's okay.
Yeah, let me see it. Right there.
Yeah.
I got a brief from my national security guy. I got to make sure I can. It's not classified information. Okay, no, it's not classified information. Okay, basically, long story short.
Interesting.
Like, what was that? He just thought about it and realized it wasn't? Or I think he's got it. Because there's another point, too, where he gets a tough question and he stalls for a long period of time and then he answers it. And I thought, I think someone's feeding him an answer. And the other thing, too, is that Theo Vaughn, when he said that Blockbuster thing, that was one of his weird things. What is he saying there? Like, he's saying, the private companies have your data anyway. And he goes, yeah, Blockbuster sent me a happy birthday and it wasn't even the right date. That's kind of the opposite of what JD Vance said, right? He's saying that, first off, who cares about Blockbuster's gone? The birthday you put in, it also wasn't right. So that's like, and it's almost a mockery of like, yeah, they're wishing me happy birthdays, right?
He's saying
but
that,
he played
like,
it off like he was agreeing with Vance, and
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just because he's drug addled or if he's actually being real intentional about this.
But he's just, I mean, are you saying that he's just kind of describing to us the world of, how it used to be? Like how Blockbuster used to just...
No, I'm saying that he may be intentionally discrediting Vance right in front of him. And there are a few times it happens there. And that point there, it seemed to me that he basically said, oh, yeah, whoop-de-doo, Blockbuster sent me a happy birthday, right?
Yeah,
And it
I
wasn't
see.
even the right date because I put in a different date, right? So,
And that is way different than what he's talking about, so...
yeah.
Short. One of the guys who works in the national security team of the Trump administration gave me this brief about how, okay, when you're using an iPad and let's say, you're reading a story from some random newspaper and you hover on a particular paragraph, like your iPad is collecting that information.
Real quick, also, if you have something to say, because it sounded like you wanted to jump in when he was looking up, just start, just say something or start talking. I'll press pause.
All right.
Information on you.
God.
Like it's actually trying to track what you're doing. Like that is the stuff that really freaks me out.
Well, how do we stop that? I think it freaks everybody out. I think it just makes people sick. It's like you don't even feel like you exist for any purpose anymore other than to be advertised to or to be
Look at his
I don't
body.
even know anything.
Yeah.
else
Well, you think
sometimes.
about it, like think about 100 years ago, 50 years ago, the most
Somebody
brilliant
said he's-
scientists in the
He's 5 years older than Vance. Is that true?
I think he is pretty.
Somebody said that.
He seems young, but he is I think up there in his 40s. I think.
Yeah, I think he's 5 years older than Vance.
How old is Vance?
40, I think, at 40 and 45. Yep, 40 and 45.
Wow.
world. They're trying to figure out new
He doesn't seem that way. It seems like
I know, it just shows how much like dressing a certain way and having a certain posture can do for you.
nuclear energy. They're trying to figure out how to cure cancer. Now, way too many of them are figuring out, like, how do I get a person to linger on a digital advertisement for a little bit longer so that we can increase the price of the ad that we sell them by 3 pennies?
Yeah.
Like, there's something I think that warps our entire economy about the digital advertisement world, because too many smart people are focused on getting us addicted to these applications.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I mean,
but like, how is anything? How does aggregating all of our data help that? Like, he wants to sit here and be like, yeah, I don't like that, but like, isn't aggregating our data make it 10 times worse? What are you talking about?
He's just doing a whole like, bro, I'm one of you guys.
Yeah,
That-
dude,
yeah.
and he uses that, dude, hey bro,
Yeah.
I'm just a bro.
You know, I'm afraid too. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I bet you are,
It
Mr. Vice
sucks.
President.
Yeah,
I'm
do we
worried
do
too.
about-
I got a DoorDash coupon right when I was thinking about dinner,
It
man.
was really
I'm scared.
scary.
I'm scared as you guys.
anyways, we're gonna aggregate your data now.
about it. I mean, one thing is from a policy perspective, we've already looked into a lot of things we can do on data privacy and protection. So we're trying to make it harder for these firms to collect information on you.
Well, it feels like with Palantir, it's like they're going to collect all the information though. So that feels like
Yeah, I
gonna
mean,
be-
look, my understanding again. So this is just full disclosure, because I
Is
think
there
it's
somebody
important.
else
I think
that
it's
would know
important.
more about it,
I
you
think it's
think?
important. I think it's important to be open. So Palantir, you asked about Peter Thiel. Palantir is actually one of the companies that he invested in, right? So
Well, he doesn't run
I would be
it.
full. My understanding is he doesn't run it.
Alex Karp.
but.
Right, runs it.
I don't believe that Palantir is collecting any information. I believe it's purely building a database that's sort of combining the information. I might have some of my team that you guys get. Is that right? Is that accurate? Okay, cool.
No,
So-
I'm glad. Yeah, because we're just trying to figure it out. And I think, right now, I think Palantir has there's a lot of conflict right now in Gaza. Everybody knows about that. Of
course.
And Palantir is been accused of being complicit in a lot of the violence over there. And so I think that's where it gets really scary for regular person on the street. I'm like, well, if this is the
It's like what he's saying there though is like it's just gonna take your old data and aggregate it into one database. It's like, and he didn't say it, but like, are they not making predictive models about things, about people, and it's going to be a minority report type situation here, or am I?
Yeah.
It's like.
And he said something about your Social Security and then the IRS. It's like, don't they already have a database with my Social Security tied to my tax returns?
Right. Yeah.
I feel like that already exists.
company,
Yeah, something
because you
smells-
see videos of
smells
horrific
bad.
stuff online.
Sure, very sad stuff. Very
And
sad
you're
stuff.
like, well, if this is the company we're hiring, how do I know that I might not be walking down the street and just a sniper bullet could hit me from them? You know,
So that is
to be really honest with you.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. And I think the answer to that question is the only real protection that we have against that is that we've got to, elect the right people, and we've got to make sure that our government doesn't do crazy stuff. Because, I mean, look, any of this information can be misused. Like our government has your Social Security number, okay?
Yeah.
Using that information, the government could spy on you. The government could give your information over to an illegal alien to start a fake account in your name. And that, by the way, happens. I had a friend of mine who had an illegal alien steal his Social Security number. And when he went to the
Thank you for
IRS
telling
to
me that
complain about it, they wouldn't give him information on
The person,
the person who was stealing his stuff. And by the way, that's what we're trying to do, is make it so the IRS can talk to the Department of Homeland Security. But the only real protection against this stuff, I think, is to have a government that actually protects the rights of its citizens. And, we should all be worried about our privacy being invaded by the government. I think we should be just as worried about private corporations as we should be the government. I think everybody can invade our privacy.
Yeah, we are, dude. But you're making it 10 times easier for these people to completely fucking rape us. Like,
Yeah, Amazon's not going to shoot me with a bullet.
And
I don't think.
Palantir's a private company, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so you're literally talking
And
about.
they did. This is.
You're talking
and
about private
this is what
corporations.
they did
Palantir
in
is a
Gaza.
private. Yes, yeah. It's crazy, man. And you know, all this shit he's saying is like, this dude, Peter Thiel mentored him. So like,
Yes, yeah,
everything we have to always take all this bullshit he's slinging
Employed
at us.
as well.
Yes, with a grain of salt. All this shit's with a grain of salt because he knows the guy, that one of the co-founders of the fucking company. So it's like, okay.
But I don't. Let me put it this way. I don't think that the solution to that problem.
It's like you're watching the devil
is-
try and explain to you why the temperature's fucking rising. Like, okay,
Yeah.
like, okay, that's cool, dude. Thanks for telling me all this shit. Thanks for letting me know you're a bro.
to like pretend that the government doesn't already have this information. It just does.
Right.
You got to make sure it doesn't misuse it.
Got it.
And that's my view, at least, is we got to live in reality, and the government's
'cause
already
they've
got
never
this
done
information.
that.
We just need to make sure.
You just told us that they have done that, you fucking idiot. I just don't want them to misuse it. Oh, wait, actually, I had a friend who they did it to. What are you talking about? You just admitted it. You just self-reported on yourself. You fat idiot.
Yeah, and in fact, if everywhere when they try and spy on me, it's just all good, just clumsy, and there's people spilling coffee on the paperwork, and
Yeah.
people are losing files. You know what? That actually is protection for me. I like, well, I don't know that I want everything to be really systemized and easy
Yeah.
for them to just do a query of like, tell me, Chat GPT, who in the database is most likely to think this? There it is, right?
That guy, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can just... Yeah, because you could literally
Yeah.
just theoretically do that. Who's most likely to think this in this type of... this area and this time during the... You know, and they could just be like, there's just like 15 people. And then here you go.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just go find these people. It's just like, holy shit.